The rain was coming down so hard that night, you'd have sworn the whole world was trying to wash itself clean. But all it did was leak through the cracked window and pool on my daughter's feet as she sat on the old couch, clutching that battered rabbit the way you hold on when there's nothing left. You know what I mean? I was watching the sheriff's deputy pin the final eviction notice to our door, the hammering echoing through the walls like gunfire, and every blow felt like it was landing straight on my heart, making it impossible to breathe. Mr. Patterson, our landlord, was just standing there in the hallway, arms folded, eyes cold as steel, and I was begging him for 2 more weeks, promising him everything I didn't have just a little more time, just until Monday when I had this job interview. Just anything so I wouldn't have to tell Chloe, my 8-year-old, that we were losing the only home she'd ever known. But you could see it in Patterson's face. Mercy wasn't part of his vocabulary. You've had 3 months, Mrs. Johnson. I run a business, not a charity. 1 hour, then you're out. Those words just hollowed me out. I tried to hold it together, but as soon as I turned around, I saw Chloe's tears mixing with the rain dripping through the ceiling into the old tin bucket. And for a second, it felt like the universe was just laughing at me. We started packing our lives into garbage bags and battered suitcases, and every photo I pulled off the wall, Tom's face looking back at me in his army uniform reminded me of everything I'd lost since Afghanistan took him away 2 years ago. There was nothing left of the life we'd built except for the stubborn memories painted on every scratch in that tiny apartment. We dragged everything we owned outside into the pouring rain. 3 garbage bags, 2 suitcases, and a box of Tom's medals. Chloe's voice was so small. "Where are we sleeping tonight, Mama?" And I just pointed at the bus stop shelter down the block, trying to make it sound like an adventure. But the truth was it felt like falling off the edge of the world. That bench was cold, metal digging into our backs, and I wrapped my arms around Chloe as the rain drummed overhead, wishing I could shield her from more than just the weather. "Tell me about Daddy," she whispered. So I told her the same stories as always, how Tom used to carry her on his shoulders, how he promised to always take care of us. But even as I said it, I wondered if that kind of protection was gone for good. People walked by, some with umbrellas, others just rushing past, faces turned away like we were invisible, like homelessness was something you could catch. I had $3.27 left, enough for a bag of chips and nothing else. And then, just as I was about to get up and find some food for my girl, I saw a Hema man in an expensive coat, golden retriever at his side, coming straight for us. I braced myself. Years of living in the world teach you that strangers at night are trouble. But this guy knelt down a few feet away, his eyes kind, his voice gentle. "You two look like you could use a little help." And I wanted to lie, to say we were fine, but when I felt Chloe shivering, I just couldn't fake it anymore. "We got evicted. We have nowhere to go." He introduced himself as James, said the dog was Max, and told us he had a guest house out back, warm, dry, empty. "I'm not asking for money," he said, "just offering a place to sleep." And I'll admit it, I was suspicious. Why would anyone help a stranger these days? But he told me about how he'd once been in a dark place and a stranger's kindness had saved him, and how maybe this was a shot to pay it forward. Chloe smiled at Max, and before I could talk myself out of it, I said, "Yes, just for tonight." James helped us carry our bags to his car, a sleek black SUV that made me feel more out of place than ever. In the drive through his neighborhood felt like entering another world. His guest house was like something out of a dream. Fresh flowers, cozy furniture, food in the fridge, even toys in a basket for Chloe. He showed us where everything was, then just smiled and left us to settle in, leaving his number on the fridge. Before he went, I asked him why he was doing all this. He told me about losing his wife in a car crash, about how a homeless man had once saved him when he was too broken to even ask for help. "Kindness still exists in this world, even in the darkest places," he said. And for the first time in months, I believed it. Chloe and I explored the guest house in disbelief, pajamas in the drawers, clothes that actually fit, real food, hot water. After showers and a meal, we fell asleep in a warm bed with Max at our feet. I thought about Tom, wondering what he'd make of all this, if he'd want me to accept help from a stranger. All I knew was that for the first time in a long while, I didn't fall asleep terrified. Morning brought sunlight and birdsong, through curtains I didn't remember closing. Chloe woke up smiling, asking if this was real. "It's real, baby," I told her, and we had eggs and toast at the kitchen table, pretending to be normal again. James stopped by with coffee, inviting us for breakfast in the main house. I hesitated, but Chloe's excitement and my own gratitude got the better of me. His house was bigger than anywhere I'd ever lived, but what struck me was how lived in it felt. Books everywhere, dog toys underfoot, sunlight pouring in. James made pancakes, joked with Chloe, and when she talked about science projects and her best friend Ashley, it felt like she was coming back to life right in front of me. After breakfast, we explored his backyard garden, pond, even a treehouse built for nieces and nephews who never visited anymore. Chloe climbed right up, Max barking encouragement, while James and I talked about Tom. I told him how I'd given up finishing my teaching degree to raise Chloe alone, and how Tom used to call us from overseas every night, no matter what. I admitted how lost I'd felt since he was gone, like I'd failed him by losing everything he'd worked for. James listened without judgment, then told me, "You're doing the hardest job in the world, and you're doing it beautifully. Don't ever think you've let anyone down." And the thing is, I almost believed him. Days turned into weeks, and a routine formed: coffee in the mornings, James walking Max, me job hunting online with a laptop he loaned me, Chloe going to school at her old district thanks to James' help. I got an interview at a marketing firm, nothing glamorous but a start. Every night, we'd eat dinner together, sometimes in the guest house, sometimes in the main house, and Chloe bloomed under the attention. I caught myself watching James, to how he'd listen to Chloe's stories, how he'd laugh at my terrible cooking, how he'd make the world feel safer just by being in it. One morning, Chloe woke up with a fever. I panicked, had count risk missing work if I got the job, but couldn't leave her alone either. James offered to watch her, and when I came home, I found her curled up with Max while James read her stories, voices and all. She was giggling, even sick. That night, I realized I was starting to care for James in a way I hadn't expected, and it scared me as much as it made me hopeful. I got the job offer, a receptionist role that paid just enough to get by, and started looking for apartments. Most were awful, run-down places that made Chloe nervous. James, noticing her discouragement, quietly offered, "Stay a little longer. Save up for somewhere safe." I hesitated, not wanting to rely on him, but the truth was it felt like home. A few weeks later, James offered me a job managing his schedule and correspondence work I could do from the guest house, flexible hours, better pay. He called it a partnership, not charity, and insisted I could take online classes to finish my degree. It was more than I'd ever dared to hope for. Our days filled with purpose: work, school, meals together, even helping Chloe with her science fair project on how dogs help people feel better. James treated her ideas seriously, encouraged her curiosity, and watched her confidence grow. It was a kind of healing none of us saw coming. There was one last ghost to put to rest: our old landlord, Patterson, calling to offer our security deposit if I'd clean the apartment for new tenants. With James by my side, I faced down those old rooms, scrubbed away the memories, and took the check, not out of desperation, but because I was ready to move on. One evening, as we sat together on the porch swing, James told me he loved Usme and Chloe as a family. It wasn't a dramatic movie moment, just quiet, honest, and real. I said it back and meant every word. Not because I was grateful or desperate or afraid, but because loving him felt like the most natural thing in the world. The months that followed were filled with new beginnings. Chloe started calling James Dad on her own. We celebrated her birthday with a house full of friends. I graduated with my teaching degree, and we made plans for a new baby together. Life wasn't perfect. There were fights, setbacks, fears about the future, but every night, we ended the day together, laughing, talking, and choosing each other. When James finally proposed on a picnic in the wildflower meadow, Chloe Loveda asked Chloe for permission first. She said, "It's about time, Dad." I said yes, of course I did. And in that moment, the years of struggle and heartbreak finally made sense. They'd led me here to a life I never would have dreamed possible when I was sitting in the rain, clutching my little girl and praying for a miracle. We got married in the backyard, under the oak tree, surrounded by everyone who mattered: friends, family, even Max with the rings tied to his collar. I took James' name, and Chloe hyphenated hers, honoring both her dads. That day wasn't the end of our story, just the start of something beautiful and complicated and real. So, if you're still with me after all this, I guess what I want to say is sometimes family shows up where you least expect it. Sometimes you lose everything and think your story is over, but really, it's just the beginning of something you never thought you deserved. Yeah, that happened to me. Maybe it could happen to you, too. What do you think? Is there ever really such a thing as a second chance? Or do we just make new stories out of the ashes of the old ones? Let me know below. I am curious where you stand on second chances, justice, and what really makes a family.